Hey guys, Josh from IMR Garage. Today what I'm doing is VVT actuator, timing chain, crank sprockets, friction washers upgrade on replacement on this 2006 MazdaSpeed motor. This motor has 180,000 kilometers on it. It's on my customer's car. Originally it had no compression on it. The highest we can get was 40 psi. We tried 4 different compression testers and we couldn't get the compression to build up. Turns out what happened was on the VVT actuator, the pin broke out, it fell in the oil pan, so the cam gear was flopping around. So trying to do a compression test, it was flopping around, we couldn't get the readings. I am jamming a piece of aluminum into it, pumped up, we got really good compression above the standards for a motor with 180K. Like I said, the motor ran really strong. I drove the car for 2 days and it pulled really well. I was really impressed with the stock KO4. It is what it is, it pulls pretty decent. So I'm going to be doing VVT actuator. This is version C, so hopefully it's the problems are fixed. Timing chain, crank sprocket, oil pump sprocket, the friction washers and the cam friction washers, valve cover gasket, crank seal. I'm also going to be upgrading turbo. I was originally going to go with a GTX 3071 with an external wastegate on this motor. I have built motor, but I sold to the customer. We worked the deal out, so I'm going to go with the Turbo Labs America turbo I got built here. It's a KO4 with the Chinese billet KO4 wheel. He puts his 360-degree bearings in it and balances it, and for 450 bucks US, why not? And it also comes with a 9-blade turbine wheel. So I'm hoping this thing makes good power on a stock turbo frame. This car I'm putting it in basically is my car. I've had off the road for 2.5 years. It's going to have a front mount, 3-inch downpipe, 3-inch exhaust, Core Sport high pressure fuel pump internals, a ported exhaust manifold, the VTS deletes, tune. That's about it. So I'm going to see how this thing runs. It's going to be a daily driver for me. I'm just going to beat on and see how it runs. So stay along, stay tuned. I'm going to be doing this VVT timing chain job right now. The motor is out of the car, so it's a lot easier for you guys to see what's going on. The only thing I'm missing on this whole equation right now is the ARP crank pulley bolt. That's about it really for what I'm going to do this thing. I will see how the chain is for the oil pump, but the 3 motors I've done, the timing chains and the oil pump don't stretch. They seem pretty good, so I'm going to go with what I have here. Try to keep it low budget. I got the car for 2,000 bucks. I sold the motor and yeah, whatever, right? So here you guys, watch along and I hope I can help someone out. Any questions, shoot in my description and my comments. Like and subscribe. So first off, 8mm, take off your valve cover. Trying to lose any parts in the motor. Now I'm going to show you what happened here. As you can see here, the actual pin, the plunger, it popped out, and what I did was I took a piece of aluminum from a Dremel bit, I grinded it down, and I took a hammer and I wedged it in place, made sure the cam gear's in place. So now it's locked in the permanent position. I'll take it out and show you how loose it is in a second. Okay, as you can see here, I just took a pair of pliers. You know those pliers? Pop this pin out. It's a piece of Dremel bit. It will wiggle a little loose. Maybe not. Anyways, you can see here, this pin's all damaged here. The whole casing's damaged. So if you ever got into a situation where you have no compression, check, make sure his pin is locked in place and his cam gear is locked in place, because this will give you a false reading. Next one is your crank pulley. It's 21mm. You use an impact, hopefully you have an impact, otherwise you're going to have to use a crank holder, and 20mm wrench and a long pry bar to get it off. There will be some oil out of this bad boy. You see, wonderful design, no keyway. Ford engineering there, boys. There's your friction washer. Next, your 10mm for your idler pulley. Your water pump pulley, 10mm. I like to thread bolts back in certain things because that way I won't lose them unless I get bags set up. 12mm bolt right here, 13mm. Bolts for your engine mount. 3 up here. 1 13mm down here. These engine mount bolts are all the same length, but the one on the bottom is different. Now move your bunch of 8mm around. Make sure all off. You don't want to prime this thing when there's one in place still. You'll break the cover. Now make sure your bolts are out. You take a pry bar, pry it here on the cam gear bolt gently. Put some rags down the ground because this thing's gonna pop all the oil. I don't like oil on my floor. And gently pull the rocket forward. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. It's actually pretty clean here. The tensioner is almost it is maxed out, so the chain is stretched big time. Oh yeah. I may replace the oil pump chain, so it looks like it's a little stretched. Just a little bit. It's not very expensive. You're going to want to remove your high pressure fuel pump housing. There's 3 bolts on it. So what you're going to need is your camshaft holder and your bolt. You can buy this stuff or make it. I made it. I give you the dimensions and whatever you need. I'll list it in my description also. This plate I found the dimensions online. I used it on 3 builds. It works. It's cheap. It took me about a half hour to cut it out. This bolt is an M10 by 1.5 and I believe it's 38.65 millimeters from here to here. This is your crank lock bolt. So guys, what you want to do is spin the engine over until it is on the TDC. This plate will slide back on right on here. And there you go. Pull your back Pull the bolt out of the back of your engine right here. Comes out right here. 10 mil. Insert your M10 by 1.5 by 38.65 bolt in. Take your wrench, make sure your crank taps onto it. Yep. As you can see here, the crank lock bolt's in place. Make sure your crank hits it. There you go. Now you don't have to do this, lock it all in place and stuff. I do it because just in case the motor moves around at all, there's no chance of you spinning the motor and getting it all messed up, or spinning the motor over and smacking a valve and bending a valve. So this motor now is a TDC, it's where it's supposed to be timed, so leave it there and do your timing changes and so forth to be roughly there, so you don't have to mess around or anything, and no chance of damaging valves. Now what I'll do is I'll find a piece of 35 thou MIG wire. You can use that. Push your lever back, and you can push your timing chain adjuster in and out, and then just take a piece of wire, lock it in place. So you want to remove your timing chain tensioner, 2 10 mil, back them off. And I can move your chain. I'll do a comparison once I get the parts off, new parts on, the timing chain lengths. Now what you want to do is take your 24 mil wrench. There's a spot on the camshaft, it's a hexagon area. 21 mil impact socket. Hold your cam to the right and give it a shot. Your bolt comes out on both sides. A little pressure to the right. That's it. Move your actuator and your friction washers, which are inside. Also inspect your gears for wear. I'll be using this one again. It looks in good shape. There's no teeth aren't super sharp. I'm gonna pull my guides off and my oil pump chain off and clean this all off. And my guides look really good, so I'm gonna keep those and reuse those. This one just slides right off. The guides are actually in really good shape. There's no scores in them at all, so I'm gonna keep these and reuse them. Next your crank pulley, your oil pump tensioner, 2 8 mils. Don't lose the parts. This one's actually in good shape. I'm going to reuse it. There's no squares or anything in it, no grinds. That works. So next, use a punch. Insert it into the hole. It'll wedge up on there, and then take off 10 mil. in there. Remove the bolt. It is keyed, so remember which way it goes. Pull your crank gear off. And make sure you got your friction washer so you know they came off. There's one on the back here, it's off. So this surface is good to go. Maybe you should remember the orientation of this crank gear, or this oil pump gear. Now I'm going to take the oil pan off, get my debris from the crank gear in there. I'm going to wash this all off, and then I'll start the reassembly. Fucking battery died. Trust the impact. Now the reason I didn't spin the motor over is I don't want any of the debris in the oil pan getting the motor. Let's see what kind of interesting crap shows up in here. It's actually pretty clean. For a motor with 180K, buddy took good care of it. Good job, Doug. Okay guys, it's been about a week and a half since I started this timing chain. Reason I'm kind of slow right now is because I fucked up and I should have ordered all the parts before I did this job. I wanted to finish this car first, but you know, I should have ordered these parts first. Anyways, everybody in town for the ARP crankshaft pulley bolt and the flywheel bolts, they wanted $200 plus tax, plus if I wanted it within a week, $50. So I'm looking at $250 plus tax for this. I am calling around everywhere, and Jegs had them in stock on the shelf to my door, shipped 2 days here. I got them for $110 US, so about $150 Canadian. So it's $100 savings, and and they came to my door. So I got these. I got an MPW water pump, which is an OEM replacement, which has the OEM part numbers on it. A coil release bearing, SKF pilot bearing, and the Felpro oil pump cooler, oil filter housing cooler seal. You can't get this from Mazda for some reason. You have to buy the whole cooler. So this thing's about, I think it was $10. If anybody wants the part number off it, let me know. I'll link it to you. Other than that, all the parts are cleaned up, so I'm gonna start putting together now. So in case anybody's wondering, the SKF pilot bearing, the oil cooler seal, the coil release bearing, and this is the MPW water pump. Here's the part numbers on it, in case you want to save some money. And here's the ARP crank pulley bolt, which is that part number there, and then the flywheel bolts. There. The engine's all cleaned up. I ended up cleaning the front of the engine, where time chain and so forth go for. And I washed the valve cover, oil pan, and front cover basically with simple green. That stuff works really good. Basically 2 coats and she was clean. So if you guys want a good laugh, originally I was having problems finding all the pieces in the VVT gear. So I decided to look at the strainer. I put a wire inside of it and picked it out, and there it is. There's the cap, the spring, the plunger still in the VVT gear, and some other parts. So yeah, there it is. Hey guys, here's the seal. $6, cheap insurance, do it up. I put some Loctite in the bolts. That's my personal preference. I put a little bit of oil on the surface, mating surfaces, and these bolts get torqued down to 101 inch-pounds. You guys, you see I put a small bead, really thin. You don't put a lot of this because it's a machine surface. I take a rag and I push it back about 1/8 of an inch. That way it squishes, doesn't get inside the oil pan. Now you want to put a dab on anywhere where there's 2 different surfaces meeting together. So here's a little spot here by the oil remain. Put a little dab of sealant there, and right here. So put this on, drop it down, and put your bolts in. Put 4 bolts in. There's no alignment dowels on this thing, so it's going to slide around a little bit on you. So try to prevent that. Put some bolts in. What I'll do is I'll take a couple bolts and snug them down, just lightly. You're gonna want a ruler for this on the front side or back side. Take a ruler and make sure that the surface is flush. And it's actually pretty good in this. By the way, I use a dye and I clean the threads out on the bolts. All there's going to be is some seal on them, old sealant. Like I said, use a flat edge, a ruler, and check it, make sure your gap, they're level. In this case, this one's pushed on this side here. You might have to hold it while you tighten it down because it's going to slide the silicone with the sealant. Good there. Good there. Once your ends are level, from center out, slow them down with your ratchet. The silicone will work its way into the bolt and make it kind of like a Loctite. But if you want to put Loctite in the bolt, it's up to you. Now, if you're anal about torque specs, this is 16.9 foot-pounds, which just doesn't take very much. That's it. Now take a rag, wipe up all the excess sealant. It's up to you how much you want to take off. I like it all cleaned off, so if I see any leaks, I can see a lot easier than having a big roll of sealant hanging over. Now I was showing you guys here on take a straight edge or a ruler on your block surface to make sure it's flush on the timing cover. Here's the Mazda spec. 20 thou roughly. Here's a layer of the crank sprockets, your oil pump gear and your crank gear. So there's the orientation. The oil pump gear is flipped one, it's offset to the back. An extra chain guide, put a little Loctite on them, and these bolts get torqued down to 101 inch-pounds. Just hook it on this bolt, push up on it, screw it in. Be careful to cross thread this bolt. Same thing, 101 inch-pounds. I put Loctite in these bolts also. And that's it, she's done. They're all three are torqued down. Now you can install your friction washers in. I push them on, use a screwdriver, push them to walk them down, or you can spin them on. You spin the bolts. They go on. I put a little Loctite at the end, a little bit of threads here. So like I said, make sure your main surface is clean, oil free. And let the bolt walk the gear on. Now what I'll do is I'll drape the train on now and use my exhaust gear to tighten it up, to take the slack out of it. Mazda does not say to put Loctite. They don't say to or not to or oil. So I do Loctite. It's a habit of mine. It's cheap insurance. You can do what you want. If you don't want to put it on, it's your choice. Same thing. Double check your main surface is clean. Use brake clean. And now you can put your chain guides on. Same thing, Loctite these. Where your chain guides are. Oh, sorry, it's 101 inch-pounds, same as the oil pump guides. Also, to have mine, there's a little bit of play in it. Push it inwards, so it tensions up a little more. I'll torque these down afterwards. Next one's pretty simple, slide in here. Also clean this oil galley out. This is the oil galley that feeds your turbo also. I clean mine out with brake clean. Clean the main surfaces off. Same thing, these get torqued down to 101 inch-pounds. Now also Loctite these bolts down. Now, compressed tensioner, you press it in and you pull this tumbler back, you release it forward just a little bit, and then you put a piece of wire, so a piece of 35 thou welding wire, and lock it in place, and there you go. So make sure the surfaces are clean if you're using a brand new one. I'm pretty sure the brand new ones come with them already locked. I'm 100% sure, I forget. But lock it in place. Both bolts are Loctite. Put it in place. Same thing with this, I'll push it inwards towards the chain itself. And this is 101 inch-pounds. And then you pull, basically, make sure your alignment marks, your crank is pinned where it's supposed to be. Mine is. So there you go. You can pull your piece of wire out. Might need a pair of pliers for that. And there you go. Your timing chain's installed. I'm only out. I'm on the second click right now. So now what we're gonna do now is we're gonna torque this down. So once you verify that your cams are locked in place properly, right where the rotation like to come off, and your crank is pinned in the right location, you're going to need a 21 mil socket, torque your torque wrench to 55 foot-pounds, and a 24 mil wrench to hold your cam place. Place your wrench on your cam, torque wrench on the bolt, and basically keep the pressure on this a little bit inwards so that doesn't put pressure on the plate. You'll feel in your right arm push down a little bit. Keep pressure on it. That one's done. Now also make sure that this is pinned in place. You'll move back and forth and you'll feel it. If it's not locked in place, when you go to set your timing, this will be off. So make sure that the pin is locked in place. Just rotate it back and forth a little bit, you'll feel it catching. So next, same thing with your exhaust cam. Put a little pressure on it. I always double check. Another one. And make sure your cam is still same rotation, locked in place at the end. So basically, that's it. So So next, guys, you're gonna want to do your front covers crank seal. Notice the depth. It's about 1 millimeter or 2 from the mating surface, from the chain surface. Take your punch. Punch it out. Take your brake clean. Clean the area out. Take your seal. And if you have a seal driver, use it. I don't have one. Just tap it in gently. Screwdriver, drop down a bit. And that's her, guys. Next, you're going to want to clean off the whole surface, sand it all down. Well, it should be clean already. Sand it all down. These surfaces here, clean them up also. Make sure it's cleaned off, all of them. Use brake cleaner acetone. So guys, verify everything here is tightened up. Your cam gears are tight, all your 8 mils are tight, your 2 10 mils on your tensioner, and your 10 mil on your oil pump is tight. So everything's good for me. I'm good to go. Your crank shaft is all your crankshaft friction washers are not touched, clean. Take a dab of your silicone or caulking we're using. I use Honda Bond and put it where the head meets the block. Put a little dab there. You'll see the mark where the original timing cover was before. Put a nice little dab there and push it in the grooves. That way it'll prevent the oil from pushing out. Now you don't need a lot of sealant. You just put a bead around the whole thing, a nice light bead. I take a rag and I wipe off about a millimeter from the edge. That way when you push it on, it doesn't push right into your oil cavity. So I'm good to go now. Your 3 spots, your engine, where your upper engine mount to, and your 2 mounts spots here. This is all locations that are listed on the Mazda manual. So mount it on. Don't put any lube on your seal yet. We'll do that afterwards. So line your dowel pins up. Now I did use a M6 by 1.0 tapping a die to clean the threads out. You can put Loctite on these if you want. And these get torqued down to 101 inch-pounds, same thing. And do verify that the seal your bond we're using, a bonding edge you're using, is pushing out. If it's not good. And your longer bolt goes right above your crank seal. Now we'll run a little Loctite on the engine bolts, just cause. Peace of mind. Now torque spec for the engine bolts are 40.5 pounds. I'll take down the center bolts forward first. And these go to 101 inch-pounds. And it's a 13 mil socket I use. There's 4 of them. There's one down by the oil pump. And tighten your bunch on the outside now. Go over them all again. There you go. Now I'll take a rag and I'll wipe up all the joints with a rag and a screwdriver. So guys, what I'll do is I put a little bit of grease on the tip of my screwdriver. I'll put it in the groove of the seal. I'll walk on the same spot. You can put an engine assembly lube, whatever you pick to choose. Once you're done with it, wipe it over so it's flush with the seal. And don't hit the shaft with the grease. And I'll take my rag afterwards and verify. I'll wrap around the crankshaft and push it in, make sure there's no grease on the shaft itself. Now what I'll do is, this is all cleaned off. I'll push the crank pulley on a little bit till it goes past the second groove. And once you feel it go off, it'll kind of float a little bit. Pull it back off. And make sure there's no grease on your mating surface between your friction washers. You don't want any of that hitting your friction washers. Yeah, I'm good. There's nothing on the mating surface at all, so it won't touch the friction washers. Press it on. Rotate your crank pulley until it's down, and insert your M6 bolt. Locks in place. Now verify your crank is in the right position. You guys insert your M6 by 1.0 bolt. Make sure your crankshaft pin bolt is tight, snug. What I'll do is I'll take a screwdriver. I'll put two bolts in my crank, and I'll push down a little bit to make sure the crank is locked in place. So guys, I'm using an ARP 251-2501 for my crankshaft bolt. It's a one-time use from the factory one. The ARP one's reusable, and frankly, I trust the ARP more than I trust the Mazda one. So you're gonna want to put the ARP Ultra Lube they give you in the package all over the threads. Any surface that's gonna have a friction, the washer, backside, and any side makes contact with steel, it's gonna create friction. So you're gonna need a 19 mil 12 point socket, and this is gonna get torqued down to 140 foot-pounds. And that's it. Okay guys, last step of this is basically move your crankshaft pin bolts, locking bolts, and your cam plates. Now take your 19 mil 12 point, and you're gonna rotate your motor, give it about 2, 3, 4 revolutions, whatever you want to do, give it a couple springs over, listen for any noises or if it winds up at all. You're gonna hear the chain slap around a little bit because the VVT gears move around a little bit. It shouldn't move more than like an eighth of an inch. If it moves like half inch or 3/4 between your VVT gear and your cam, you have issues. Give it a couple spins. Line up your crank pulley with your valve, with your timing plate. And you can verify by putting your cam plate on to make sure it's all lined up perfectly. This motor is good to go, there's no binding up, and so forth. So this job is actually pretty simple. It should take you about a day, depends on your level of experience. If you've worked on cars before, it's not a big job. It's a lot easier outside the car than it is in the car. But basically, specialty tools you're going to need. You're going to need a 19 mil 12 point if you use an ARP bolt. I made my own crank pin locking bolts. I use a Allen key socket head. It's a 12.9 grade bolt. It's an M10 by 1.5 and it is 38.75 millimeters from here to here. I had another kit. I verified it's good to go. The cam plate I made myself. It's actually pretty simple. You can trace it out and make it. Save you some bucks. If you decide to use the factory Mazda bolt, you're going to need a degree wheel or some sort like this. It locks in place, or you can mark it. So torque it down to the desired spec that Mazda lists. I forget what it is, and I believe it's like 88 degrees. Don't quote me on that, but you have to. So basically, mark it almost 88 degrees with a marker, and then you can torque it down with a wrench, or you can use an impact and just keep tapping it until it gets that desired angle. Other than that, it's pretty simple. If you have any questions, comment below, and I'll try to help you out before you do your job, or if I'm around, I can help you out. It's pretty simple. So, like the video, comment below, and subscribe to my channel, and good luck with your job, guys. Wish you guys luck.